Meta will pay billions of dollars over the next decade to settle a landmark case, accusing its platforms of fueling social media addiction among young people.
The tech giant will pay up to $16.7 billion to 47 states. California could receive as much as $2.2 billion, and New York another billion. Texas reached a separate agreement again. Worth noting that it's $1 billion as well.
Yeah, the parent of Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and others also agreed to impose safeguards, restricting use of its sites by teens to 2 hours a day and blocking all usage from midnight to 6 the next morning unless there is parental consent. Meta also agreed to curb push notifications as well as hide like counts.
This is a major breakthrough, a milestone moment, a watershed moment. Because when it comes to protecting our children's mental health, there is no time to lose. Instead of getting tied up in years of trials and appeals, we have secured the changes we were after.
Meta could have faced penalties of up to $200 billion. It's denied all wrongdoing and won't undergo a fundamental overhaul, but the agreement represents a sweeping effort to define how it serves young users. The firm has now urged rivals TikTok and YouTube to adopt similar safety measures. A parent whose 16-year-old daughter died of suicide from social media addiction welcomed the settlement.
You have to be 16 to drive, 18 to vote, 21 to drink, 25 to rent a car, but yet you can be any agency, anything on the internet, and there's no guardrails, and these companies know it. And no amount of money is ever going to bring my beautiful daughter back.
Ira Spitzer has been tracking the trial for CNA. He tells us how far Meta's settlement will go in terms of stopping further social media addiction among teenagers.
This is the first time that the company will have to submit to mandated fundamental changes to their platform. When you look at what they've agreed to here with the 2-hour limit for teenagers, as well as the changes to aspects of the like notification and certain filters and things of that nature, this really is a victory for those U.S. states who had been seeking many of those changes. And another very significant factor here is this is on Meta's home turf, the United States, the state of California, where the company is headquartered. So for them to have this sort of settlement take place in the U.S. is certainly significant as well. However, in terms of actually changing the alleged harms that happen to younger users, we'll have to see how this plays out. Parents will be able to turn off those controls if they want. They will be the default setting now, which is a big change, but teenagers may figure out ways to get around this. So we'll have to actually see how this plays out in the real world, but certainly a significant change and a change that has been a long time coming in the eyes of many people. There's one very interesting aspect of this settlement was that around $5 billion of the money that Meta is supposed to pay out over the next 10 years is contingent upon its rival platforms, YouTube and TikTok, also agreeing to pay out that same sum and to make similar changes to their platforms. So this really looks like a watershed moment in the U.S. for social media platforms overall with respect to the way that they're treating younger users. We'll see what the reaction is from those rival platforms, but there's going to be a lot of pressure on them now as well, of course.
Carolina Rossini is Director of Public Interest Technology at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. She joins us on the show this morning. Professor Rossini, appreciate you talking to us. So let me start by asking you, why did Meta agree to settle after taking this all the way to trial? Some are saying, Mosseri's testimony didn't help and they were fearful. The lawyers, defense lawyers were fearful of Zuckerberg's pending appearance as well.
Yeah, indeed. There are actually lots of different cases going on, and this might create a little bit of confusion, right? There is a case in Los Angeles, there is a case in New Mexico, there are cases going on in Washington, D.C. So this case specifically today is one that happened in Oakland, California. And of course, I want to congratulate all the general attorneys involved in this. It was a very novel way to approach what is happening here. And I think that's what my colleagues also refer to a watershed moment. I don't feel yet that the number is what is incredible here, right? We are talking about $17 billion, but I don't think that this measure against, for example, other similar instances where products were declared a nuisance or a problem for society, right? So back in '98, for example, we had the tobacco case here in the US, where the major cigarette makers agreed to pay $206 billion through 25 years, right? And they are still going. As far as cigarettes exist, they are still paying. Here, what's really impactful is the change in the product design, right? Those products will be developed more responsibly, trying to create all those frictions so kids and teens potentially get less addicted to the technology, right? So there is that aspect. And again, the legal theory, we were able to actually escape the roadblock that Section 230 has been all these years, right? Section 230 here would say that if a user generates content, the platform is not responsible. Now, what this settlement and all these court cases are saying is that this is not about freedom of expression. This is not about user content. It's actually about product design. So let's see how this settlement is implemented. One of the things that is still to be seen is going to be the enforcement, right, and the verification. And really, if we're going to be able to verify that this has impact in protecting our kids, as it is the intention of all the general attorneys involved in this case.
Okay, Professor, states got an enormous settlement and major changes, as you mentioned, but Meta also avoided a jury verdict, admitted no wrongdoing as well. Which side got the better outcome? Who do you think was the real winner here?
Well, one of the things that's important to remember is that this type of settlement do not create legal precedent, right? So there are various court cases that are still moving forward, and those court cases will allow all of us to actually have more access to internal documentation from Facebook, right? And really dig further into how these products are working. So it's going to be interesting to see and compare how this thing's going to move forward and what is going to be the impact of this settlement. Will this help or not, right? I think we are all very happy and supportive of the families and the efforts here. But this settlement is really dealing with harm that already happened. Will those proposed changes actually help causing less harm in the future, right? That still is an open question. And as I mentioned, there are other cases happening, and Meta is still going to appeal in the LA case, in the New Mexico case. So things are still moving forward. The settlement does not cover all the states where suits are going on.
Right. Professor, the settlement number is where Julie and I disagree. She thinks it's enormous. I think it's a drop in the bucket, for a company that made $200 billion last year. But I just want to quickly step away from the numbers and look at what the states got specifically in the form of changes which are expected of Meta's apps. I mean, how major are they? Can you describe, how they may change, perhaps fundamentally, the way apps are designed to prevent addiction?
Yeah, one of the things that I want to point out, especially coming from my background on public interest technology, is that just changing technology not always solve the problems, right? For example, we know that efforts around age verification are really hard to implement, right? There are laws around the world being proposed around age verification, but it still is interesting friction to add to the system. Another thing that's very important, and I'm gonna go over the changes they agree to, is that they are transforming a lot of those things that a lot of times currently would be optional into features, core features of the product design. So you take out the responsibility of the kid, of the teen, of the parent, of the community, because we now recognize that the company has the power to change technology, to create technology, and those features become default, right? I don't know if you guys remember when Instagram was collecting all our pictures to train AI, and you had to go through lots and lots and lots of clicks and pages to say, hey, I don't want you to use the pictures I post on Instagram to train AI. Now those things are easy because they've come embedded in the product in this case, right? So again, this design matter, understanding the power in who, the power debate here matters, but just to share with the audience some of those designs, right? So they're gonna try to do some age verification and consent. In the US, we have a legislation that talks about specific measures for kids that are under 13. That's actually changing by state. Massachusetts, where I'm based, actually they are upping that age to 16. It's going to be complicated for the platforms because lots of countries, from Brazil to Australia to UK, they have different age requirements right now.
Okay.
They are also, as was mentioned in the reportage before, the night block, right? They are also changing how folks interact with likes and comments, because we know that the more likes and the more comments, right? This is part of their business model. This is part of the influence economy business model.
So Professor, I'm sorry.
Those things for
I apologize for interrupting because we're running out of time. I mean, those changes sound very good on paper, but why would the states trust Meta to do this time? I mean, their track record in terms of promising to self-police, have often fallen short. One example, Teen Accounts feature that was already supposed to fix this didn't do this at all. So why are the states saying, okay, we'll settle this time?
I completely agree with you, and I think this is a big issue with the settlement. Right, the settlement was proposed by Facebook, was written by their lawyers, by their policy folks, and they give very little in terms of transparency, what's going to happen. Will the impact of those new features be measured in any way? Will researchers have access to the data in when those features are rolled out to see if they actually are efficient in any way? We saw in the past, right, with content moderation, Facebook launching the oversight board, right? And that has have a limited impact. So I think it's really the settlement has its shortcomings in that regard. But again, I really gonna follow very closely all these other suits that are happening in other spaces in the US to see if we actually gonna get more opportunities for enforcement and accountability. So it's times we'll say, and I hope some of these other states push back for more transparency and accountability. They are promising one almost ombudsman, right? And that they would nominate. And I don't think society should be happy or comfortable with just that.
Understood. Professor Rossini, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for talking to us. Carolina Rossini is Director of Public Interest Technology at the University of Massachusetts, Amherst.